measure ingredients tutorial. Measuring ingredients is super important. One, so your recipes turn out properly, and two, if you're watching your carbs or your saturated fats, or you're on a specialized diet due to health issues, you need to know what's in what you're cooking. So there are two different kinds of measurements, basically, dry and liquid. The first one we're going to do is liquid. So I'm going to show you how to measure 2 cups of water. This is a liquid measuring cup. So that looks like it's probably 2 cups of water, but you need to set it down on a flat surface and get eye level with it. So I can say it's actually just below that 2 cup line. And that should make it good. But you need to be eye level with it so you can see. Because from here, it looks like I'm over the 2 cup line. Down here, I can see I'm right even with it. That's important. Now, dry measurement is usually used for flour, sugar, cereal, oatmeal. You can use dry measuring cups like these for fruits and veggies. They're not as accurate, and depending on how much I need, I may use a liquid measuring cup, but I'm going to show you another way to do that too in a second. So, to dry measure something like flour, you fill it up. Now, there are a couple schools of thought on this. Some cooks are perfectly fine with leaving it rounded like this. For most recipes, I'm going to tell you that this is totally fine. You do not need to level it off. In fact, as a surly teenager, I got into arguments with my home ec teacher about having to level things off. She insisted that you level it off. And some cooks do prefer leveling. So you use the flat end of your knife, not the rounded end, and brush it all the way across your measuring cup until there's nothing left on top and it's completely flat and even with the cup. That's 1 cup of flour leveled off. But I'm just to scoop it and go. There are some people who even just fill up a handful. A handful is approximately a cup. My great grandma cooked that way. I need a little bit more exact measurements than that. But when it comes to things like flour, sugar, salt, and your measurements, in my opinion, they don't have to be perfectly exact. For new cooks, they should be, but as you progress and get more comfortable in the kitchen, you can kind of let go of some of that. Another dry measure is for spices and seasonings, and there you would use spoons rather than cups, because you use less. So this is allspice. Normally you would use about 1/4 of a teaspoon, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. And so you just fill up your spoon and knock it off. Again, with spices and seasonings, I'm all about rounding it. But that home ec teacher of mine would have me even level that off so that it's flat and even with the spoon. Either way is acceptable. When you're first learning how to cook, I would recommend leveling. So that's your basics. So we're gonna go a little bit deeper here. Pampered Chef makes these awesome measuring tools called measure-alls. They are both liquid and dry measure. I usually still rely on my traditional glass measuring cup for my liquid measure and my measuring cups and spoons for my dry measure. I primarily use my measure-all for things like salsa, ketchup, mustard, honey, that kind of thing. So for example, in my smoothie recipes, I use this to measure out 2 tablespoons of honey. Pampered Chef makes 3 sizes, the 1/4 a cup, the 1 cup, and the 2 cup. So you push, this side is the liquid side, this side is the dry side. So to measure this, you do the dry side. And you're probably thinking, but it's a liquid. I'll show you why. You push it down to the 2 tablespoon line, which I'm just gonna do 1 just to show you. So you push it down to the 1 tablespoon line. You fill it up to the top. And then when you're adding it to whatever you're cooking, which I'm just gonna add it right back to the bottle if I can do it without making a giant mess. You pour it, but you also push that plastic back down so that it doesn't stick to the sides of your cup. That's super beneficial. You don't lose any of your ingredient. You don't waste a bunch of time scraping. It just scrapes right off the bottom there. And you're good to go. This also works for yogurt, applesauce, anything like that. For larger measurements, like ketchup is one that, like if you make your own barbecue sauce, you use ketchup. So again, you just push down in the center of that white plastic to whatever measurement you need. So we'll say 1/4 a cup for this one, which yes, I could use that one for the 1/4 of a cup and just extend it all the way out. Fill this up to the top. There's my 1/4 a cup of ketchup. Plop it into whatever I'm cooking. Same way I did the honey, and this is probably gonna make a bigger mess because it's a smaller opening. Oh, yep, giant mess. All the best cooks are messy cooks though. And again, you push that out. Now normally you would be cooking into a much bigger bowl than what I was just doing. So now I have a fun mess to clean up. Lastly, another great way to measure, and I use this primarily for measuring veggies and fruits. First of all, I'll say I don't particularly like measuring veggies and fruits. I tend to just use the whole vegetable or the whole fruit rather than measuring and throwing a part away or keeping it for later. But with diabetes, I do need to be more careful about my carbs, and carbs come from veggies and fruits too. We like to think that it's just breads and pastas, but it's really not. These ramekins, also from Pampered Chef, have markings on the sides. Okay. They have markings on the side so that you can measure. So I sliced up a celery, 1 celery rib or stalk. And so you pour that all in, put it on a flat surface, make sure it's down and even and flat, and that's about to the 1/2 a cup line, so that's a 1/2 a cup of celery. So that's how we measure fruits and veggies, goopy liquids, dry ingredients, and liquid ingredients.